Just a half century of ownership, the longest tenured owner in North American sports. What goes through your mind when you hear me say that?
Yeah, it's a special night. I know that my father would appreciate saying that this team has brought his family together, generations of his family together, and that's frankly what he celebrates most. We're obviously in the business of winning hockey games too, so tonight's a little bit about celebrating his tenure, of course, and what he's done in terms of bringing Bostonians together, but also the Boston Bruins and our storied history. And 50 years of ownership is quite something.
What's your favorite memories as a family of owning the Boston?
Oh, no question, 2011. Right, I was on the ice with my dad in Vancouver, and that was just such a moment, right? Unexpected, sort of the underdog story of winning that game, being out there on the ice with him, handing him the Stanley Cup and having it lifted over his head, no doubt. Hands down, there's nothing comes close.
Just celebrated the centennial season and the centennial game, and you've seen all these Bruins greats walk through the door, and to know that your father and yourself are attached to so many greats. Of what does that mean?
Well, that's really about them, right? I mean, we're just stewards, and they're the guys that really are. They put on the sweater and play the game. And they've done a brilliant job of representing the Spoke to Be in this franchise, and we honestly owe them a whole debt of gratitude for what they've brought to this franchise, and they've cleared the path for today's players. They laid the track, so to speak, for the history and hopefully the gumption at some point for this team to call upon and say, hey, listen, our team and this city deserves another Stanley Cup, and that's what we're up for.
Yeah, was it like you've been around all these other places? There's no place like Boston. What's it mean to be an owner here, in this city with its sports-crazed fans nonstop?
So I've raised 3 kids here, and they've gone through. They're all actually, my youngest will graduate college this June, and they all want to come back here. There's no place like Boston, right? We've lived in San Francisco. I've lived in Los Angeles, obviously Buffalo. There's nothing like Boston. The passion the Boston fans and specifically Boston Bruins fans have for their team.
Speaking of Stanley Cup, Charlie, how are you feeling about this current team right now?
So I feel everyone's frustration, and I hear it too. But I also feel it because I'm like our fan base. I am also a fan, and I support this team. I believe in our leadership. I know that's been called into question quite a bit recently. I hope that we can build off the last 2 games that we played. Because they feel like our team, in my opinion, is yet to play its best game yet. I feel like we've got it in our system. We've got it in the room. And our hope is that we can find it. But I look back, listen, if history is any indication of what we can anticipate, I mean, if you look at Don Sweeney's stewardship and Cam Neely's stewardship over, I don't know, let's call it since 2015, since Don took over, I mean, we've made the playoffs 8 of the 10 years. There's only one other team, and by the way, listen, I'm not going to measure success in making the Stanley Cup playoffs, okay? Let's be very clear about that. Our goal is to win the Stanley Cup. But you can't win the Stanley Cup if you don't make it to the playoffs. And our team has done that for the past 8 years, and I hope we do it again this year for our 9th. But it's been some trying moments for sure. I mean, to watch this team play and know what it's capable of and see it perform, and then come out the next night and not be able to do it, it's a head scratcher for sure.
Have you noticed a difference since the coaching change, and if so, what has been that difference?
So for me, and I really should leave that to both Cam and Don to answer, but from my perspective, it looks like there's a lot more structure. And that's not a knock on Monty. I think that was by and large maybe a product of training camp, some players that weren't healthy or maybe not there. It just took some time to get together. But I feel like there's a lot more structure in terms of understanding, listen, how we're going to break out, how we're going to get across. And listen, the power play is still a struggle for us, but I do feel like we're defending a whole lot better than we were.
Charlie, how would you like to see Cam and Don attempt to get this back on the rails ahead of the trade deadline?
You know what? I have faith that they'll make the right decisions. I don't have the playbook for that. I have faith that they will make those decisions, though. I was thinking about it too. So Sweeney's he's GM for the Four Nations Cup, right? So he's out there watching. He's also AGM for the Olympic team in 26 for Team Canada. So I feel like he's got a pretty good pulse on what's out there in the market in terms of player personnel that might be available to us. And he's always, and every time I call him, and we speak quite a bit, he's always looking and always shopping. So I have faith.
Sounds like you have a strong faith and belief in Cam Neely and
I
Don
do.
Sweeney. How has that grown, and where is it at right now with you in a place where there's high expectations all the time?
Yeah, listen, I mean, we've been working together for, in Cam's case, almost a couple decades now. So, yeah, I have very good faith in it. And listen, we all feel it. We all walk it. This team, we're all accountable for it, right? I am too, just as much as they are.
Would ownership have any appetite for a reload if it looks like you may not make the playoffs going into the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that looks like, Steve. Right now, we're in a playoff position. It's difficult for me to say if we to fall out, what if. You start playing that game, it gets in the muck, and it might get misinterpreted. I feel like we should have faith in the group that's there.
You mentioned Four Nations. To have Boston be one of the host cities, and like you said, Don being the GM of, one of the
Team
teams,
Canada.
Team Canada. How does that give you a sense of how does that make the Bruins feel to have?
It feels
such
proud.
a-
I mean, I called Sweens when he was appointed. I said, congratulations. I mean, that's voted on by your peers. He's also, won GM of the year. He was voted twice to be GM of the year, and one it was in the past 10. So, I don't know. And that's all done by other NHL GMs, with people that I would consider his peers.
The Boston Bruins Foundation, and look back at all the work that you've done over the years, what goes through your mind?
A lot. I mean, it seems like yesterday, but when I first remember as a player, we did the Wife's Carnival, and that stayed with us for so long. With the foundation, it was our staple event. Then came the first outdoor game at Fenway, and we came up with this alumni game that was very successful, and we did a few of those, and now we're here doing galas, right? We had the Centennial Gala last year. This is something we want to do every year and either honor particular players, in this case ownership, and some of our marquee leaders throughout the years, like Johnny Busick, Ray Bork, Patrice Bergeron, Zdeno Chara.
How about Jeremy Jacobs' 50 years
Amazing.
of ownership?
To have one guy, I believe, we talked about this earlier, I think he's the longest singular owner in sports history. The Rooney family has been around, the Hunt family obviously in football, but I think for one single owner, this is the longest tenure, which is amazing, 50 years. Yeah.
What does that say to you as a player and as a person that's now in this organization, has been in it for a long time, what he's been able to do?
Well, it's amazing, right? He came in right after the Bobby Orr era, so to speak, right? They were winning Stanley Cups, and then right afterwards, Don Cherry comes in, and they ran into the Canadians a few times, as we all remember as kids growing up here. But just great leadership, and then to see, what Charlie. I'm fortunate enough to work for Charlie and oversee the foundation the last 18 years. So, to me, it means longevity, and obviously someone's doing something right.
And with the alumni and being president of the Boston Bruins Foundation and keeping that connection, with all the history in terms of the former players, what does that mean to you as well?
Well, you're right. So I remember, the best part about Milt Schmidt made a rule. I remember the first time I retired, I came back from Germany in 2001. As most meetings with Bruins, or Bruins alumni in particular, we had at the Kowloon. And Milt oversaw the meeting, and he made the rule: if you played one game for a Bruin, you were a Bruin. And I'll never forget that. And I remember when I took over for Chief, running the day-to-day operations for the Bruins alumni and organizing the games, Milt Schmidt was still the coach. And we had a game at Williams College in the middle of winter, so all of you guys who know Williams, that's an old rink, very cold. He called me the day before, and I quote, he goes, "Bob, Milt Schmidt here. I have to apologize. I think I have pneumonia, and I will not be at the game tomorrow." And I'm like, are you kidding me? Milt Schmidt is calling me. And that kind of, I think, is what has transcended over the years, as you alluded to earlier with the alumni. That tradition has been passed down, whether it's from Milt, Fernie Flaman, Eddie Sanford, those type of guys. Obviously, Eddie Shore years ago. And then from Chief to Cash to Taz to Ray to Nifty to Chara to Bergeron. That's what I see. That's always been part of Bruins culture and what it means to be a Bruin, not only on the ice, but off the ice.
Bob, as a local guy, do you feel a sense of pride when you see like Charlie Coyle in the lineup? Callahan makes his debut last night. What is that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had 5 guys at one time in the late early 90s, and Johnny Conniff was the assistant coach and Milbury was the head coach. So we had quite a few from Mass, but it's nice to see, you know, Grizzy was here for years, obviously in Pittsburgh now, but I know those guys, and they might not realize it so much now, but when they get a little bit older and retire, they'll realize how fortunate they were to get to play for the hometown team.
Jeremy Jacobs, just talk about what the night means.
Well, it's pretty amazing, really, when you think about it. The franchise is 100 years old, and he's had it for 50, so half the time of the franchise is. So it's pretty amazing. You know, there's not much else I can say other than 50 years, a long time, and it's been a ride. Obviously, we'd like a little bit more success in those 50 years, but that's sports.
In terms of the current state of the team now, just your thoughts on what's happening on the ice.
Well, obviously, you know, we're not happy with where we've been at and how we've been playing right from really training camp. I think it's, you know, we can go back to that, but I like how we're playing a lot better defensively. It's just, you know, we can point to the power play. We can point to some of the players that are having down years, which, you know, you don't expect. But we're not happy with where we've been at this year, that's for sure. I mean, last couple games, hopefully we can build off that.
Hey, Cam, could you just take a step closer
Yeah.
to the mic?
Oh, sorry, yep.
Appreciate that.
Kim, have you seen a bump since the coaching change?
Well, most often you're going to get some kind of a bump during a coaching change. I just think the way we're playing is probably a little bit better to what we should be playing with the roster that we have. You know, nothing against Monty. He did a great job while he was here. There's no question. Fantastic coach, but we just weren't playing the right way. We weren't doing the right things, and it wasn't 1 or 2 games. It was really, you know, a number of games. So, you know, tough to make those changes, tough to make those decisions, but we felt it was the best thing at the time for the team.
What's the calculation as to figuring out if how much you can do before the trade deadline, if you want to do anything? What's that calculation at this point?
Well, we're going to have to see where we are in the standings when teams start really, you know, flushing themselves out. And then, you know, there's some teams right now that are bona fide sellers, and, you know, there's a lot of teams that are probably looking to buy. So, you know, we're in the playoff picture right now, but, you know, that could change. But right now we're in the playoff picture, and, you know, we want to continue to improve as a hockey club, whether that's internally or externally.
Do you want to see what kind of impact kids like Patra, maybe Lysell, can have before you decide to make any kind of move?
Well, I think it would be beneficial for the organization to see where those guys are at. There's no question. You know, we've been really patient with the group up here with the big club. You know, and I think that, you know, we rely a lot on what the coaching staff says down in Providence, what our development and staff says, you know, staff that really watches those guys on a daily basis, excuse me, and really have an understanding of where their development is. You know, Maddie is someone we anticipated starting the year with us. It didn't materialize, but he went down and really, you know, really worked on his game, and I think it showed last night. He looks like a little bit of a different player, more confidence. You know, we like his skill set. With Fabian, we certainly like his skill set, but, you know, one of the things with him that we've preached is, you know, away from the puck, and when you don't have the puck, how do you play? But these are guys that, you know, we know what they can do or how they can help us offensively, but are you outscoring your mistakes is really the question at the end of the day.
The cap is tight. In terms of futures, you're kind of light there. So building all that in mind, are you still in a position where you want to make a trade here to improve the team?
Well, we'd certainly like to improve. I mean, but as I said, you know, we'll see what happens with what teams decide to do heading into the Four Nations, and then, you know, after Four Nations is done, you know, it's a race to the deadline. So, you know, we'll see where we're at. You know, I think right now we've got to look at 2 paths. You know, one that we're buying and one that we may be, you know, just retooling a little bit. We still feel like we've got a playoff team here. And we certainly don't want to jeopardize, getting out of the playoffs because we made some moves that may be good for the future, but not good for the present.
But you have to be realistic in that sense, in the sense of you can't just go all in if it's not a
No, I mean, we've gone all in a number of times over the past 10 years, and rightfully so. And we got to be smart. If you do it again, you got to know that you're a team that has a good chance to have a deep run. You don't want to go all in and then not really feel confident that you're going to have a deep run.
What is the appetite for a retool or a step back?
Well, right now I don't really have that appetite, but like I told our GM and the staff, we have our meetings coming up here in a little bit, that we do have to prepare for two paths. I mean, obviously the one path is that we're buyers and we feel good about our team, but the other path is maybe somewhat of a retool, but we're not focusing on that right now. We're focusing on trying to get our team to be in a better place.
You've always been an emotional player, Kim. Where are your emotions at with this hockey team? What's it been like for you to watch, try to do something, and just kind of go about your business as you try to get them going?
Well, it's frustrating. I've maybe some wouldn't say I've relaxed a little bit, but I feel like I have relaxed a little bit game to game. But this year has been a little frustrating because we honestly felt coming out of the off season that we had a better team than what we've showed on the ice, and maybe that's a product of us overvaluing what we have, or just the start that we had was not expected, to be honest with you. I mean, we take a look at our lineup and we look at what the production could be from our group, and we know a lot of players had hit their high side last year, and so we weren't really looking at them to repeat that or to go above that, but we felt like we would be close to where some of these players were last year, and some are starting to get back to where they were. Others still need to pick it up a little bit.
Your CEO and alternate governor just had a strong faith, talking about you and Don and your ability to do what you do. How does that make you feel, and does it change anything for you as far as your response?
Well, I certainly appreciate that. I mean, I look at the body of work, the past 10 years, it'd be nice if we sprinkled in a cup in 19 and maybe one in 23, but that never happened. We felt like we've given our team a chance to win every year, and it just hasn't materialized, so that's frustrating for us. We know it's frustrating for the fan base. Our fans certainly deserve championships. They come out and they support like none other, so we're aware of the expectations here. We try to meet and exceed those every year. Right now, it's a year that we're not really accustomed to.
Time for one more.
I apologize, I'm late, but just your Jeremy Jacobs, 50 years of singular active ownership. Just a thought on what he's accomplished as an owner in the NHL and in all of professional sports.
Well, one thing that he's done, I think, is probably more beneficial for the league than it is for the Boston Bruins, and that's his makeup. He wanted to help make the league healthy, and I think he's really done that. What he's done for the city, what the foundation's done, what he's done for Causeway Street, and most importantly, the building that we play in, and how they've renovated and re-renovated that over the years to make it as best they can. Like I said earlier, it just would be nice if we had a few more championships in these past 50 years, but that's sports.